What I have here is an old boombox, and what I want to do is help restore it. As you can see, there's a little bit of damage here around the speakers. It's a bit dirty. And I want to take some time to replace it with some new speakers, clean it up a bit. So the first step is going to be opening it up. One of the first steps to open it up is going to be to yank these dials off. And you can just pull these up. Same is true for these knobs. We need to pull these off, and I'll use pliers to do that. There's another one right here as well. And the final knob up top needs to come off too. Alright, now we can work on the screws. The first screw is right here, and it's for the antenna. And once that screw is out, we can pull out the antenna. Then what we want to do is find these arrows all across the corners and unscrew all of the screws that the arrows point to. After taking out the screws, we're going to open up the battery compartment. If we have any batteries in here, we want to take out those as well. And we're going to work on the screws that are in here as well. Make sure that you're keeping your screws and hardware organized as you take the pieces out so you can easily get it back together later on. Once all the screws are out, we can pull the body off of the front cover. And I want you to see why we took all those knobs off. The way the top of this works is there's a few holes here to get it off. Just slide the buttons out and the dials through there. Now once we open this up, we can see that it is connected through some wires. So to take this completely off, I want to disconnect those wires. Take a look at those. Those wires go right into there, so we just want to pull those connectors off right there. Okay, and now our front piece is completely off and can be easily worked on, cleaned, and we can get at the speakers by moving this and clean this out. So first things first, I'm going to take out this speaker. To unscrew all four of these screws around here. So we just got to undo that tab, and then we got the screw out. Okay, so you'll notice the speaker just isn't ready to pop out this direction. We need to go to the front. Now that the screws are out, we can pop this off and then pull up our speaker. Then we want to do the same to the other side. And we can pop that off and pull the speaker out. The next step we want to do is to remove the wires, and they're actually soldered into these speakers. So we're going to use a soldering iron to loosen up the solder and pull out the wires. There. We're going to do that to the other speaker as well. The other thing we're going to want to remember is which wire touched to which connector. One of them is fat and one of them is skinny. And we're just going to do the same wire when we reconnect the speakers. Red is on fat. With the faceplate disconnected, we can take some time cleaning it up. I think a good thing to use the magic eraser. We can swipe things across. Little cotton swabs, Q-tips. Use a little bit of all-purpose cleaner and really get inside these grooves here. See if we can clean some of this up. I want to do the same thing to the back piece too. Get our cotton swabs and cleaner and clean up everything before we put it back together.
We also want to take this opportunity to clean our knobs, dials, and switches. After cleaning up the stereo, we want to go ahead and replace the speakers as well. There's a couple different ways that we can do this. I'm going to show you different ways we can do it. Here's the first way.
Is taking this out of the nubs and rotating it and actually using the holes to screw it in directly. Now, if I were to do this, we have the advantage of being able to then use the speaker covers that also came with the speakers. And we can place that there. And then we won't need to use washers. And I can simply drop a screw down here, and that'll tighten up, and then use the clip on the other end to hold everything really secure. And with the speaker cover, with it being designed to fit this speaker, it's going to fit really well. I think I'll like to do it this way, and on this one maybe do it this way. The speaker cover is on top. I took the clips that the speakers came with and the screws that it came with, and I used the face cover that the speakers came with to screw these in and keep everything into place. Now that everything is screwed in, I can go about taking these wires and soldering them into place. And you can see the speakers came with some solder already there. So I just need to heat it up with a soldering iron and place the wires there and make sure it's good and dries in there. And if we were paying attention to the first part of the video, you'll remember that the black goes to the skinny side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first heat up the solder on the skinny side and press this wire in. I'm going to add some more to it too. So one wire, two wires, not the prettiest solder job, but it'll hold. Okay, now another method of hooking up speakers is with connectors. And these just slide over items like this. Now in order to get this to work, we need to connect these connectors up with the existing wires. So what we need to do is we need to take our connecting wires and we need to cut them down and then attach them to our endpoints. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these using wire cutters. Okay, and we want to cut it at a length so that we can strip the wires and give some metal access. So we're going to cut it first. And it's okay, we don't need to keep these connected. We can just split these apart. Now we need to strip these wires. Okay, and this looks like it's about 18 gauge wire. It could be 20 though. Okay. Do the same thing to the other wire. Okay. Now what I have are these connectors. And you put one end of the existing wire through. And then I want black to go to black. This looks like I have it a little too long, so I can bend this down a little bit. So now we have connected clip right here. Black is negative. And if we take a look at the speaker, you have to look really carefully and it'll tell you which one is negative and which one is positive. This side is the negative side. And since black is my negative, this is how I want it to go over. So I'm actually going to slip the speaker in before I attach it. I'm going to slide this over the sleeve, like so. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other wire. Connect one side through our connector. And I can crimp it down now if I want. I don't have to wait to have the other one in there. And then I'm going to put in the other side. It's probably a little long. And I can crimp this down. That's solid. And I can slide this one to the positive side. All right, and now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And this is tight. Okay. Okay, now to screw these speakers in, we have to look at the front here. And what I want to show is that these speakers have a built-in speaker cover that also has screw brackets. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these screws and throw them through. I'm just going to screw them through. And now we can flip it over. And then to secure the screws, we can use these tabs. Just spin them on, just like we did with the other set. Now when you're putting everything back together, you want to test how big your speakers are and see if the new speakers are bigger than the ones that were in there before. And if so, if there's any parts that need to be cut out. In my case, speakers are bumping right here, so I use a Dremel tool to cut this out a little bit to make space. Any of these capacitors or connections that are popping up, see if you can bend them to the side, and if you can't bend them to the side without breaking them off, you can do like I did on this side a little bit and replace the direct connection in with a wire. And then I can move some of these taller ones off to the side, and you can see I've done that several spots. Just pushed off some of these things that popped up that were bumping in the way and move them off into the side.
And before we reconnect everything, we're going to want to make sure we connect our speakers back up to the main board.
Okay. Once we have this clicked in, we can start to screw it back together. Okay. And now we can use our hardware pieces to screw things back together. And once we're done with our screws, we can go back to the top and work on our switches and dials. So as we're putting the dial back on, it's important to know where it is pointing. And right now, it's pointing right here, right there. So I'm going to spin it all the way to this extreme. And that should be a 10. So I can push down on that. And that's our 10 to 0. Okay, and now I need to put on the other piece. And this is going to go inside of it. So we want that to be pointing at 0, since it's on the 0 extreme. So now I can move them together, or I can twist them independently. We have this one. We've got one more to go. Now this one has a little plastic pad with it. Make sure that's still going to be there. And this one, it doesn't matter where it starts because it's the tuning dial. There we go. Alright, let's give this a try. So here it is with new speakers, radio, and now we want to test the tape.